I still remember that day like it was yesterday. The sun was barely up, casting weak golden light through the hospital windows as I gathered my things. My body was exhausted, my mind foggy from painkillers and endless waiting, but I finally felt ready to go home. I had spent the last 3 days in the hospital, recovering from a sudden illness that had knocked me out completely. The nurses were kind, the doctor reassuring. But nothing could prepare me for the shock waiting for me at home. The drive back was quiet. The streets were almost empty, save for a few early commuters and the distant sound of birds greeting the morning. I kept thinking about the smell of my own home, the comfort of familiar walls, the warmth of my kitchen where I could make a cup of tea without anyone worrying about me. But a small, uneasy feeling lingered at the back of my mind. Call it intuition, or maybe just leftover fear from the hospital. But something felt off. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed nothing unusual at first. The carport was empty, my garden looked the same, and the faint hum of the refrigerator inside sounded normal through the open window. I unlocked the door slowly, stepping inside, and immediately felt the familiar scent of home mixed with something new, something metallic, cold, and unfamiliar. And then I saw a second fridge. Not the old one I had in the kitchen, but a brand new, shiny silver fridge standing awkwardly against the far wall. My first thought was disbelief. My eyes darted around the kitchen. Did I imagine it? Was this a joke? My heart started beating faster, a mixture of fear and confusion building in my chest. I moved closer, my footsteps hesitant on the cold tile floor, my hands trembling slightly. "Mom, look, it's mine." I turned quickly to see my son standing by the counter, grinning like he had just pulled off the greatest trick of his life. His small hands were clenched, his eyes shining with excitement. I wanted to laugh, to shake my head in disbelief, but my body felt frozen. My mind couldn't catch up with reality. Where did this come from?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He shrugged, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "I wanted it, so I got it. Isn't it cool?" Cool. My mind was racing. How could he have done this without me noticing? We hadn't gone shopping together. There had been no delivery notice. No one had told me a word. The feeling of being violated, of someone sneaking into my home while I was vulnerable and sick, started to take over. My stomach churned, my hands clenched into fists. I took a step closer to the fridge, touching its cold metal surface. It hummed softly, almost alive, and I felt a strange chill run down my spine. Something about the way it stood there, perfectly in place, made me uneasy. I glanced back at my son, who seemed completely oblivious to my fear. "Did Dad bring it?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Nope, just me," he said proudly. "I saved my allowance, and I wanted a fridge that was just mine. Now I can put all my stuff in it." I stared at him, trying to read the innocence in his small face, trying to believe him. But a nagging thought wouldn't leave my mind. How did he move something this big by himself? Where did it come from? Why didn't anyone tell me? The sound of a soft knock on the kitchen window made me jump. I turned, but no one was there. My heart was pounding now. I could feel the sweat on my forehead. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just a fridge, it was a warning, a mystery, and somehow I knew it would change everything in ways I couldn't yet understand. I tried to talk to him calmly, asking about the fridge, how he got it, if anyone helped him. But he just smiled and ran off to his room, leaving me alone with the strange humming appliance. I circled it, inspecting every corner. No receipts, no papers, nothing to indicate how it got here. Then I noticed it. A faint mark on the back, almost like a scratch or a symbol carved into the metal. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just new, it had been deliberately placed. Someone had brought this fridge here while I was in the hospital. And now it was sitting in my kitchen like it belonged. I took a step back, my mind spinning. Was it really just a fridge, or was it something else? I didn't want to believe that something sinister had happened while I was away. But the feeling in my gut wouldn't let me dismiss it. The air in the kitchen suddenly felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. And then I heard it is soft, almost inaudible click from inside the fridge. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. The fridge was closed. Nothing was plugged in yet. It shouldn't make a sound. But it did. Something inside was moving. Something alive. Or something pretending to be. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my shaking hands. I wanted to call out to make my son come back to confront whatever was in there. But my voice caught in my throat. My eyes locked on the fridge door. And just as I reached out to open it, the kitchen light flickered, plunging the room into partial shadow. And that's when I knew, with a sinking feeling in my chest, that this fridge, this simple appliance, was only the beginning of something far bigger, far stranger, and far more dangerous than I could have imagined. I stepped back slowly, my mind racing. Someone had been in my home. Someone had placed this fridge here while I was weak and unable to stop them. And whatever was inside, whatever it was, wasn't meant to be found yet. The soft hum continued. The fridge seemed to pulse slightly, almost breathing. And my son's laughter echoed faintly from his room, oblivious, innocent, but somehow chilling. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I knew I couldn't just ignore it. But opening that fridge could change everything. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't ready to face whatever waited inside. The tension in the kitchen was thick, almost suffocating. My heart raced, my palms were clammy, and every instinct screamed at me to leave. But I couldn't. I had to know. I had to understand why this fridge had appeared, who had brought it, and what secrets it might be hiding. I still remember standing there, frozen, staring at the metallic door, knowing that once I opened it, nothing would ever be the same again. I still remember that day like it happened yesterday, the day I finally decided I had to confront the strange fridge in my kitchen. The hum it made was faint, but steady, almost like a heartbeat. I couldn't ignore it any longer. Every fiber in my body screamed that something wasn't right. And yet the thought of opening it made my stomach churn. My hands shook as I reached for the handle, and the cold metal sent a shiver up my spine. Before I could grab it, my son's voice called out from the hallway. "Mom, come see what I drew." His excitement was infectious, and for a moment, I almost forgot about the fridge. Almost. I forced a smile and knelt beside him at the small table, trying to push the unease down. He had his crayons scattered everywhere, the little artist immersed in his own world. His laughter rang like a bell, pure and innocent. But in contrast to the fridge looming behind me, it felt almost unreal, like a false note in a melody I didn't understand. "Wow, that's beautiful," I said, genuinely impressed. But my mind was elsewhere. The fridge sat in the corner, gleaming in the sunlight streaming through the window, impossible to ignore. I tried to focus on my son, on his joy. But the feeling of something hidden inside that cold metal box grew heavier with every passing second. Finally, I told him, "Why don't you go play in your room for a little while? I want to check something." His face lit up, and he ran off without suspicion. That's when I turned fully to the fridge. I could feel the hum more clearly now, vibrating slightly against the floor tiles. I pressed my hand against the door. It wasn't warm, but it didn't feel empty either. It almost felt alive. I took a step back, my mind racing. Could it be a mechanical problem? A hidden motor? But no, something told me it was more than that. I couldn't explain it, but I could feel it deep in my gut, a warning, a pulse of danger I couldn't ignore. My chest tightened, and I swallowed hard. I decided to call my husband. He had been away on a business trip, and maybe he could explain this bizarre situation. I dialed his number, my hands trembling. The phone rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. I left a quick message, my voice tight with confusion and fear. "Honey, I'm home. There's something in the kitchen. I don't know how to explain it, but please call me back as soon as you can." I hung up, the silence afterward almost deafening. The house felt emptier now, the shadows in the corner stretching longer. I realized how quiet it had been, too quiet. Usually, there's always some noise, the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, my son playing, or the distant sound of traffic outside. But now only the soft hum of the new fridge broke the silence. I edged closer, my eyes scanning every detail. I noticed something strange. Faint scratches along the floor leading to the fridge. They were subtle, almost invisible, like someone had dragged it carefully into place. Whoever did this didn't want me to notice, but I had noticed. My heart started to race faster. The thought of someone entering my home while I was in the hospital made my blood run cold. I took a deep breath and opened the fridge door slowly, expecting. I didn't know what. Darkness? Perhaps? Emptiness. But instead, the light inside flickered on, revealing something completely unexpected. The fridge wasn't empty. Not entirely. Inside, there were neatly stacked boxes labeled in handwriting I didn't recognize. Some were for food, some seemed to contain small personal items, photos, notebooks, even a tiny pair of shoes. And then I saw it, a small envelope sealed with red wax. My hands shook as I picked it up. The seal was unbroken. No one else could have touched it since it had been placed there. I broke the seal carefully, almost afraid of what I might find. Inside was a note, written in a hurried, scratchy script. Don't trust anyone. Watch the fridge. It's not what it seems. My stomach dropped. What did that mean? Who wrote this? Was it a joke? A threat? My heart pounded in my chest as I looked around the kitchen, half expecting someone to jump out from behind the counter. But there was no one. Only the soft hum of the fridge, now sounding louder. It's almost like it was responding to the note in my hands. I felt a sudden chill crawl up my spine. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself I was overreacting, that maybe it was just a strange prank or a misplaced delivery. But something in the atmosphere of the kitchen made me pause. The light streaming through the window now seemed dimmer, the shadows deeper, and the air thick. My mind couldn't settle. I decided to check inside one of the boxes, carefully opening it. Inside, I found a small blinking device, like a tracker or a sensor. My fingers froze on contact. What the hell was this doing here? My pulse quickened. I realized, with growing fear, that this fridge wasn't just a fridge. Someone had placed it here deliberately, with a purpose I couldn't yet understand. Suddenly, I heard the soft creak of a floorboard behind me. My head snapped around. The house was supposed to be empty. My son was in his room. My husband was away. Yet there it was, the unmistakable sound of someone moving quietly in the kitchen. I swallowed hard, my body tensing. Whoever it was, they were still here, watching, waiting, and I had no idea what they wanted. The hum of the fridge grew louder, almost insistent, and I realized with a sinking feeling that it wasn't just the appliance making the noise. Something inside it was a lever. At least it was meant to seem alive. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. I wanted to call the police. I wanted to run. I wanted to wake my son and leave the house immediately. But some part of me, the part that was curious and stubborn, told me to stay, to understand, to find out what this fridge truly was as I reached for the blinking device inside the box. A faint whisper echoed in my ear, soft, almost inaudible. Don't open it. I froze, my hand hovering above the device. The hairs on my arms stood up. My pulse raced. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination or if someone was actually there. But the voice was clear enough to terrify me. And that's when I realized the truth: I was no longer in control of my home. Someone or something had taken that control, and the fridge was the first sign. Whatever came next, I knew it wouldn't be ordinary, and I was not ready for it. I still remember that night. The first night after finding the note inside the fridge. I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house made me jump. Every shadow felt alive. I tried to tell myself it was just exhaustion, that I was imagining things after too many days in the hospital. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The house was too quiet. Even my son, who always tossed and turned in his sleep, was completely still. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between the strange humming noises drifting from the kitchen. It wasn't constant anymore. It came in bursts, 3 short hums, then silence. Then again, faint and rhythmic, almost like breathing. I turned on my side, trying to block it out, but the harder I tried, the louder it seemed to grow. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, wrapped my robe tightly around me, and walked down the hallway. The wooden floor creaked under my feet, and every step made me hesitate. The clock in the living room ticked softly 3:12 a.m. The kitchen light was off, but a faint glow leaked through the crack of the fridge door. My heart skipped a beat. I had closed it earlier. I was sure of it. I took a slow step forward. The glow wasn't white like a normal fridge light, it was blue, cold and unnatural. It pulsed gently, washing the kitchen walls in shifting shades of icy light. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. Then I heard it. A faint scraping sound, like something moving inside. The door shifted slightly. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst. I wanted to turn around to run back to my room, but my feet wouldn't move. I whispered softly, "Who's there?" My voice cracked in the silence, no response. Just that strange hum, now louder than before. I reached out slowly, every muscle in my body trembling, and pressed my palm against the door. The metal was vibrating. Not slightly violently, like something trapped inside was struggling to get out. Suddenly, the vibration stopped, dead silent. Then, the sound of a soft click. The light inside flickered, then went dark. I stepped back, shaking. The hum was gone. The fridge was still again. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at that door, waiting for something else to happen. But nothing did. Finally, I forced myself to turn around and go back to bed, though every instinct screamed not to leave it unattended. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight filled the kitchen. Everything looked normal again. The fridge was closed, the hum faint but steady like before. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it was all a dream. But then I saw the floor. The fridge had moved. It wasn't in the same place as before. There was a clear outline on the tiles where it used to stand, a faint ring of dust, slightly discolored tiles. And now it was a few inches closer to the kitchen door. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The fridge had moved on its own. I called out, "Ethan, did you move the fridge?" My voice trembled. My son appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes sleepily. "No, Mom, I can't even move it." "Why?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart was pounding so hard I felt dizzy. I stared at him, searching for any sign he was lying, but his face was blank and innocent. He didn't know, or at least he didn't think he knew. I forced a smile. "It's nothing." Maybe I was mistaken. He nodded and walked to the table, humming softly to himself, like nothing was wrong. But when he opened the fridge, the old one, to grab the milk, I noticed something chilling. He didn't look at the new fridge at all. Not even a glance. It was like he was ignoring it on purpose. I waited until he went to his room again before walking over to inspect it. The scratches on the floor were new, fresh, sharp lines leading toward the kitchen doorway, as if something had dragged it there during the night. I bent down to look closer and saw tiny metal shavings on the tile, glinting faintly in the morning light. Then, from behind me, a whisper, soft, low, familiar. "Mom?" I turned quickly. The hallway was empty. My heart stopped for a second. "Ethan!" I called out, but there was no answer. The sound hadn't come from his room. It had come from right behind me. The fridge door clicked again. Just once. Slow, deliberate. I took a step back, terrified but unable to look away. The faint blue glow returned, spilling out from the tiny gap between the doors. I could see my reflection in the polished surface, my face pale, my eyes wide with fear. And behind me, another shadow. I spun around, but nothing was there. The room was empty. The air, however, felt heavy, thick, almost charged with electricity. The phone rang suddenly, breaking the silence. I jumped, nearly screaming. I snatched it up, my heart racing. "Hello?" There was static on the other end. Then a faint voice, barely audible. "Don't touch the fridge again." Click. The line went dead. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I looked around the room, half expecting someone to appear, but it was just me and that cursed machine humming quietly in the corner. I backed away slowly and sank into a chair, my mind spinning. Who called me? How did they know? The voice didn't sound familiar, but there was something strange about it, like it had been distorted or layered, almost mechanical. And then my son walked back in, holding his drawing from the night before. "Mom, can I put this on the fridge?" he asked cheerfully. I froze. "Which one?" He blinked, confused. "The new one, of course. The one that's mine." Before I could stop him, he walked over, his little hand reaching out to stick the paper on the door. But as soon as his fingers touched the metal, the blue light flared bright just for a split second. He didn't notice, but I did. The paper stuck like a magnet, even though there wasn't one. He smiled and turned away. But I couldn't take my eyes off that light. It pulsed once more faintly, as if in response to his touch. And then I saw it something that made my blood run cold. His drawing, the one he'd just placed on the fridge, wasn't the same as I remembered from last night. It had changed. It wasn't just a drawing of a house anymore. Now there was something standing next to it, something dark, tall, and formless. And it was standing right where our kitchen would be. I still remember that night. The one after I saw the shadow in Ethan's drawing. I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it dark, tall, shapeless, standing in the exact spot where the fridge sat. My mind was spinning. Was it real? Was it in the drawing only? Or worse, was it already here? I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting. I had spent days in the hospital. My body was weak, my mind foggy from medications. Maybe my exhaustion was creating illusions. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just imagination. That Frigid's hum, the strange blue light, the way it moved on its own was real. The drawing changing by itself was real. And the shadow. I couldn't explain it. I got out of bed and crept toward the kitchen. The house was silent, the way it always is at night when no one is awake. I reached the doorway, and my stomach dropped. The fridge had moved again. Not far this time, just slightly. Just enough so that it blocked part of the kitchen path. And the blue light pulsed faintly from inside like a warning. I froze, my heart hammering. I wanted to run to call someone, to do anything but face it. But something stronger than fear held me there. Curiosity, or maybe it was the stubborn part of me that wanted to understand what was happening in my own home. I stepped closer. The hum was louder now, almost insistent. My hand reached for the door handle, and I felt a shiver run through me, not from the cold, but from the sense that something was watching me. Then a soft click echoed behind me. I spun around. Ethan was standing at the top of the stairs, rubbing his eyes sleepily. "Mom?" His voice was quiet, tired. I forced a smile. "It's okay, sweetie. Go back to bed." He nodded and shuffled down the hallway, but then stopped and turned back, pointing at the fridge. "Mom, it's moving again." I blinked. "Moving? What do you mean?" He walked closer, eyes wide. It's closer to the door than before. And the light. It's blinking, like it knows I'm watching. I felt my chest tighten. My son, usually so calm and obedient, was terrified. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was more afraid for him or for myself. I crouched down to his level. "Ethan, listen to me. Did anyone touch this fridge while I was at the hospital?" He shook his head vigorously. "No, I didn't touch it. I swear. And Dad didn't bring it." "You told me." I swallowed hard. He was telling the truth. He couldn't have moved it. And the fridge. I didn't know what it was capable of. I reached out slowly, just to touch the handle. The moment my fingers brushed the cold metal, the hum stopped. Dead silence. And then a soft whisper. "Mom?" It wasn't Ethan. I knew that immediately. The voice was low, distorted, almost mechanical. It seemed to come from inside the fridge. I stepped back, pulling my son close to me. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice shaking. Ethan nodded, his small face pale. It called my name too." The blue light flickered again. This time it was brighter, and I could swear I saw movement inside, a shadow shifting, stretching, and growing taller. My mind screamed at me to run. I couldn't. I was rooted to the spot. I grabbed a flashlight from the counter and aimed it at the fridge. The beam sliced through the dim light, bouncing off the metal door. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the shadow in Ethan's drawing. It appeared in real life. Not fully formed, but a tall, dark shape standing silently near the fridge. I gasped and stumbled back, pulling Ethan with me. He clung to me tightly, tears welling in his eyes. "Mom, it's real." "I know," I whispered, my own voice trembling. "I know it's real." The fridge hummed again, slowly this time, almost like it was breathing. The shadow moved slightly, just enough to stretch closer toward the door. My son whimpered, pressing against me. I knew I had to act. I had to protect him. But what could I do? The fridge was alive in some way I couldn't understand. Whoever or whatever placed it here knew exactly what they were doing. And it wasn't finished. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "Open me." "If you dare." I froze. My heart raced. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to know what was inside. But the fridge pulsed, glowing brighter with each second. It almost felt like it was calling to me, tempting me, daring me to see. Ethan buried his face into my chest, trembling. "Mom, don't, please." I wanted to obey. I wanted to leave it alone, but I knew that ignoring it wasn't an option. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to stay hidden forever. And then I heard a faint sound behind the fridge metal scraping against metal. The fridge door shifted slightly on its own, almost like it was opening. Just a crack. I felt my knees weaken. Something inside wanted out. Something that had been waiting, watching. And now it was ready. I took a deep breath, holding my son close, and whispered to myself, "I need to see this. I have to know." The light inside the fridge flickered violently. And then it went completely dark. Silence. For a moment. Nothing happened. Then the whisper came again. Right behind my ear. "You shouldn't have come back." I still remember that night. The night when everything changed. The fridge had gone dark, the shadow looming, and the whisper so close. So chilling it made my skin crawl. I could feel it lingering in the air, surrounding me. Pushing against my sanity, I held Ethan tightly, trying to soothe him. But he wasn't just scared, he was tense. Like he knew something I didn't. "Mom, it's looking at me," he whispered, barely audible. I froze. "Looking at you." He nodded, his small fingers clutching my robe. I can see something moving inside the light. It's like eyes. Watching me. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I had to convince myself it was a trick of the light. Shadows cast wrong, anything but what he was describing. But deep down, I knew better. There was something alive in that fridge. Something deliberate. Something dangerous. I took a step toward the kitchen counter, looking for something, anything, to protect us. My hands landed on a heavy rolling pin, and I gripped it tightly. I could feel my pulse in my temples, my body tense and ready to act. But I didn't want to act blindly. I had to understand. Slowly, I edged toward the fridge. The blue light flickered faintly again, pulsing like a heartbeat. I could see the faint outline of the shadow inside. It wasn't fully formed, but it was moving, stretching, waiting. And I knew, instinctively, it wasn't just a shadow. Ethan tugged at my hand. "Mom, don't. Please." I knelt down to his level. "I know you're scared. I am too. But I have to know what's inside. We can't just ignore it." He buried his face into my chest. "I don't want it to get me. I don't want it to get us." I swallowed hard, hugging him tighter. I felt the heat of his small body against mine, the softness of his hair, the rise and fall of his tiny chest. It grounded me. For a moment, I almost felt courage, almost felt like I could face whatever waited inside. I reached for the fridge door again. My fingers brushed the cold metal, and instantly the hum returned low, vibrating, alive. The fridge seemed to respond to my touch, almost like it recognized me. And then I heard it again, the whisper. Louder this time, insistent. "Open me, or it will open itself." I froze. My blood ran cold. It wanted me to open it. But the thought of forcing the door open, of seeing what was inside terrified me. My mind raced through every possible scenario. What if something dangerous was in there? What if it was alive in a way I couldn't understand? I looked at Ethan, whose small hands were pressed to his mouth in fear. "We need to be careful," I whispered. "We need to be smart." Then, without warning, the fridge door creaked open a little. Just a crack, but enough for me to see a faint shifting glow from inside. I jumped back, pulling Ethan with me. His eyes were wide, frozen in horror. I took a deep breath. "It's okay. Stay close to me." The hum grew louder, almost aggressive, and then the shadow moved again. I could see the outline of something tall, thin, twisting in unnatural angles, moving inside the fridge. My heart hammered. I gripped the rolling pin tighter, ready to strike, ready to defend my son. Suddenly, the envelope from before slid out from one of the boxes inside the fridge. It fell to the floor with a soft thud. My hands shook as I picked it up. The wax seal was broken this time, though I was certain no one had touched it. I opened it carefully. Inside was another note. "The fridge chooses who it reveals itself to. Be careful. Ethan is not safe." My stomach sank. Not safe. What did that mean? Why my son? I looked at him, and he was staring at the fridge, frozen, his small hands shaking. He was drawn to it. Something in that fridge had already found him. The humming stopped abruptly. Dead silence filled the kitchen. I could feel the tension in the air, thick, suffocating. I glanced at Ethan, and then at the fridge, and saw something I will never forget. The shadow inside the fridge was no longer moving randomly as facing him. Like it had recognized him. Like it was. Aware. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him and run. But my body wouldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, terror gripping me like ice. The hum returned, low and sinister. The blue light pulsed once, and in that pulse, could swear I saw two glowing eyes inside, staring straight at Ethan. He whispered, barely audible, "Mom, it knows me." I froze. "Knows you? What do you mean?" He shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I don't know, but it feels like it wants me." The fridge vibrated violently. I stumbled backward, dropping the rolling pin. My hand shot up to cover Ethan, trying to protect him. The air in the kitchen felt charged, electric. I could hear a faint scratching like metal claws against metal from inside the fridge, and then the whisper, this time not from inside the fridge, but from everywhere surrounding us. "You cannot hide. He is mine." My heart stopped. I looked at Ethan, his small face pale, his eyes wide with fear, and I realized with a sickening certainty that this was no ordinary fridge. It wasn't a machine, it wasn't a prank, and it wasn't harmless. It was alive, and it had chosen my son. I still remember that night, the one after I saw the shadow in Ethan's drawing. I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it dark, tall, shapeless, standing in the exact spot where the fridge sat. My mind was spinning. Was it real? Was it in the drawing only? Or worse, was it already here? I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting. I had spent days in the hospital. My body was weak, my mind foggy from medications. Maybe my exhaustion was creating illusions. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just imagination. That Frigid's hum, the strange blue light, the way it moved on its own was real. The drawing changing by itself was real. And the shadow. I couldn't explain it. I got out of bed and crept toward the kitchen. The house was silent, the way it always is at night when no one is awake. I reached the doorway, and my stomach dropped. The fridge had moved again. Not far this time, just slightly. Just enough so that it blocked part of the kitchen path. And the blue light pulsed faintly from inside like a warning. I froze, my heart hammering. I wanted to run to call someone, to do anything but face it. But something stronger than fear held me there. Curiosity, or maybe it was the stubborn part of me that wanted to understand what was happening in my own home. I stepped closer. The hum was louder now, almost insistent. My hand reached for the door handle, and I felt a shiver run through me, not from the cold. but from the sense that something was watching me. Then a soft click echoed behind me. I spun around. Ethan was standing at the top of the stairs, rubbing his eyes sleepily. "Mom?" His voice was quiet, tired. I forced a smile. "It's okay, sweetie. Go back to bed." He nodded and shuffled down the hallway, but then stopped and turned back, pointing at the fridge. "Mom, it's moving again." I blinked. "Moving? What do you mean?" He walked closer, eyes wide. It's closer to the door than before. And the light. It's blinking, like it knows I'm watching." I felt my chest tighten. My son, usually so calm and obedient, was terrified. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was more afraid for him or for myself. I crouched down to his level. "Ethan, listen to me. Did anyone touch this fridge while I was at the hospital?" He shook his head vigorously. "No, I didn't touch it. I swear. And Dad didn't bring it." "You told me." I swallowed hard. He was telling the truth. He couldn't have moved it. And the fridge. I didn't know what it was capable of. I reached out slowly, just to touch the handle. The moment my fingers brushed the cold metal, the hum stopped. Dead silence. And then a soft whisper. "Mom?" It wasn't Ethan. I knew that immediately. The voice was low, distorted, almost mechanical. It seemed to come from inside the fridge. I stepped back, pulling my son close to me. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice shaking. Ethan nodded, his small face pale. It called my name too." The blue light flickered again. This time it was brighter, and I could swear I saw movement inside, a shadow shifting, stretching, and growing taller. My mind screamed at me to run. I couldn't. I was rooted to the spot. I grabbed a flashlight from the counter and aimed it at the fridge. The beam sliced through the dim light, bouncing off the metal door. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the shadow in Ethan's drawing. It appeared in real life. Not fully formed, but a tall, dark shape standing silently near the fridge. I gasped and stumbled back, pulling Ethan with me. He clung to me tightly, tears welling in his eyes. "Mom, it's real." "I know," I whispered, my own voice trembling. "I know it's real." The fridge hummed again, slowly this time, almost like it was breathing. The shadow moved slightly, just enough to stretch closer toward the door. My son whimpered, pressing against me. I knew I had to act. I had to protect him. But what could I do? The fridge was alive in some way I couldn't understand. Whoever or whatever placed it here knew exactly what they were doing. And it wasn't finished. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "Open me." "If you dare." I froze. My heart raced. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to know what was inside. But the fridge pulsed, glowing brighter with each second. It almost felt like it was calling to me, tempting me, daring me to see. Ethan buried his face into my chest, trembling. "Mom, don't, please." I wanted to obey. I wanted to leave it alone, but I knew that ignoring it wasn't an option. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to stay hidden forever. And then I heard a faint sound behind the fridge metal scraping against metal. The fridge door shifted slightly on its own, almost like it was opening. Just a crack. I felt my knees weaken. Something inside wanted out. Something that had been waiting, watching. And now it was ready. I took a deep breath, holding my son close, and whispered to myself, "I need to see this. I have to know." The light inside the fridge flickered violently. And then it went completely dark, silence, for a moment. Nothing happened. Then the whisper came again. Right behind my ear. "You shouldn't have come back." I still remember that night. The night when I realized the fridge wasn't just observing, it was testing us. After the chaos earlier, I had hoped the fridge would remain still. But as the evening wore on, I sensed something was wrong. The house felt heavier, darker, like the air itself had been changed. Ethan sat quietly on the couch, small body tense, his eyes darting to every shadow. I tried to keep him calm, offering warm tea, soft words, and hugs, but nothing seemed to reach him. He kept glancing at the kitchen, as if expecting the fridge to move again. And I knew he was right. The first sign came from the lights. One by one, the bulbs flickered, buzzing softly. I froze. It wasn't the electricity, it was deliberate. The fridge's blue light pulsed faintly in rhythm with the flickers. I could feel it from across the room, the hum vibrating beneath my feet in the walls, almost in my chest. Ethan whispered, "Mom, it wants me again." I knelt beside him, taking his trembling hands in mine. "It can't have you, Ethan. Not ever." But as I spoke, the fridge began to move again. Slowly, silently, across the kitchen floor. No creaking, no sound, just a faint vibration. I watched, horrified, as it shifted closer to the hallway. My mind raced. Whoever or whatever controlled it wasn't human. It didn't just move like a machine. It flowed, gliding, like it was alive. Suddenly, the air in the room grew colder. My breath fogged and my teeth chattered. Papers and small objects around the kitchen rattled on their surfaces. And then I heard it, the whisper. Now multiple voices layered together, coming from every direction. "He belongs to us. He belongs to me." Ethan screamed, "Mom, it's reaching for me." I ran toward him, scooping him up in my arms. The fridge glowed brighter, as if responding to our fear. And then it happened, the shadow emerged again, taller, darker, more defined than before. Its eyes glowed faintly red now, fixed on Ethan. Following him as I carried him away, I stumbled backward, crashing into the counter. My arms tightened around him. "Stay close to me. Don't let it touch you." The fridge shuddered, and the floor around it cracked slightly, like it was testing its strength. Boxes and papers flew off the counter as if caught in a sudden storm. I felt the air push against me. Something inside the fridge was moving violently, thrashing, powerful. And all it wanted was Ethan. I realized, with growing horror, that it wasn't just after him physically. It wanted him emotionally, psychologically. The way Ethan's eyes darted toward it. The way he stiffened when it moved, it was reaching into him, trying to control his fear, to manipulate him. I ran toward the front door, my son clinging to me, my body trembling. But the fridge wasn't finished. I heard the soft click of the kitchen light turning off. The hum intensified again, now echoing through the house. And then the whisper directly into my mind, chilling and clear. "You cannot protect him. You are too weak." I froze mid-step. The voice wasn't coming from the fridge this time. It was in my head. My skin prickled and my knees felt weak. I could feel its presence everywhere, the floor beneath me, the walls around me, even Ethan's tiny hand in mine. I gritted my teeth, holding him tighter. "No, I am not weak. You will not have him." For a moment, everything went still. The house fell silent. The fridge stopped moving. The hum died. Even the air seemed to stop. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then slowly the fridge's door creaked open. A faint blue light spilled out, pulsating in rhythm with the whisper in my head. And I saw it, a single black tendril emerging from the fridge, reaching toward Ethan, not fast, but deliberate, curling like a snake. Moving closer with each second, I screamed and lunged, trying to swat it away, but my hands passed through it like smoke. It was real but intangible. It didn't obey the laws of the physical world. I could feel it pulling at Ethan, trying to draw him in. He cried out, terrified, "Mom, help me." I realized something horrifying. The fridge wasn't just a machine. It wasn't just a shadow. It was something else entirely, something that could manipulate fear, manipulate reality itself, and it had chosen my son. And the more terrified we were, the stronger it became. I held him close, my mind racing. I had no plan. I had no weapon. But one thing was clear. I couldn't let it have him. Not ever. The tendril stretched farther, touching Ethan's sleeve. I felt an icy chill shoot up my arm, a warning, a bite of something unnatural. And then the whisper came again, directly into both of our minds. "He is mine. You cannot stop it. You will fail." I gritted my teeth and whispered fiercely, "No, You will not touch him. Not while I'm alive." The fridge pulsed violently. The kitchen lights flickered. And in that moment, I realized it was preparing for something far worse than what we had already faced. I still remember that night. The night the fridge became more than just a mystery, it became a predator. After the events of the last few days, I thought we had survived the worst. I was wrong. Whatever that fridge was, it was learning, adapting. And its focus on Ethan had grown. The house was silent except for the faint hum coming from the kitchen. I could feel it through the walls, through the floor, even in my chest. It wasn't a normal sound anymore, it was a pulse. A heartbeat, steady and ominous, as if the fridge itself had grown alive. Ethan sat on the couch, staring at the kitchen, frozen in fear. His small hands were gripping my robe so tightly I could feel his fingernails digging in. "Mom, it's looking at me again," he whispered. I nodded, swallowing hard. I know. The blue light inside the fridge pulsed softly at first, then grew brighter, stronger, almost like it was breathing. I could see the shadow twisting inside, moving in ways that made no sense, stretching and curling, waiting for the perfect moment. I knew we couldn't ignore it any longer. Whatever this thing was, it was intelligent. It wasn't just an appliance, it was a trap, and it had chosen my son as its target. I gripped his small hands in mine. "Ethan, listen carefully. You have to stay calm. Don't let it scare you, okay?" He nodded, but his wide eyes betrayed him. I could see the terror etched into his every feature. The fridge vibrated, and suddenly the door swung open by itself. The blue light spilled across the kitchen floor, and the shadow inside became more defined. I could see it reaching outward, tendrils curling toward Ethan. I froze. It was moving faster now, smarter, more deliberate. I shouted, "No, you will not touch him." But it wasn't listening. The tendrils twisted through the air, reaching for him. Ethan screamed and tried to pull away, but it was like the shadow had a force pulling him toward it. I lunged forward, trying to shield him with my body, and then the whisper came louder. Everywhere, inside my head, inside Ethan's mind. "He is mine. You cannot stop what is coming." I shook my head violently, trying to block it out. "No, I am his mother. I will protect him no matter what." The fridge pulsed violently in response. Boxes and papers flew across the kitchen as if caught in a violent storm. The lights flickered. The air grew icy. And then silence. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. The shadow paused. The tendrils retracted slightly, as if assessing us. I could see Ethan trembling in my arms. And I realized something terrifying. The fridge was not just testing us. Etch was learning our fear, our reactions, and using them to grow stronger. I took a deep breath. Trying to calm both of us. "We have to be smart," I whispered. "We can't fight it with panic. We have to think." The blue light pulsed one last time before dimming slightly. The whisper returned, this time clear and cold. "The next time you come near me, there will be no escape. Choose wisely." And then the fridge went completely silent. The shadow receded, curling back inside the fridge, disappearing as though it had never been there. I held Ethan tightly, rocking him, whispering reassurances, though my own heart was racing. We had survived for now, but I knew the warning was real. The fridge was no longer just an appliance. It was a predator, intelligent, and it had set its sights on my son. I looked around the kitchen at the scattered papers and overturned boxes. I realized that no ordinary solution would work. This wasn't something that could be unplugged or thrown away. It was alive, aware, and dangerous. Ethan buried his face into my chest. "Mom, what do we do now?" I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. "We survive, and we fight, whatever it takes." And in that moment, I made a silent promise to myself and to my son. I would not let this thing take him. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I would not fail. The fridge hummed faintly, almost lazily, as if it knew I was watching, as if it knew our fear. And I realized something even more chilling. This was only the beginning. I still remember that night. The night when the fridge stopped being confined to the kitchen. The hum that had haunted our home for days grew louder, vibrating through the walls and floor. And I realized with a chill that it wasn't just watching anymore, it was moving beyond its physical space. Ethan was in my arms, shivering, clinging to me like I was the only thing keeping him safe. The blue light inside the fridge flickered violently, pulsing in a rhythm that matched my racing heartbeat. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, reaching toward us like long, living fingers. I tried to stay calm, to hold him close and think, but the fear in his small body made it almost impossible. His eyes, wide and terrified, kept darting to the fridge. "Mom, it's coming closer. It's moving." I turned slowly toward the fridge. The door creaked open slightly on its own. And then I saw the shadow was no longer confined inside. It slithered across the floor like liquid darkness, twisting and curling as it moved. I could feel the air around it thicken, cold and heavy, pressing down on us. I stumbled backward, my mind racing. This wasn't just a machine anymore. It was something alive, intelligent, unstoppable. The tendrils of shadow reached toward Ethan, and I could see their smoky edges brush against him, as if testing his resistance. "Mom, help me," he screamed, panic in his voice. I lunged forward, pushing him behind me, but the shadow didn't slow. It moved faster than anything I had seen, almost as if it could sense fear and feed off it. The whispers returned, louder than ever, echoing in my head, Ethan's, and around the room. "He is mine. You cannot hide him. You will fail." I shook my head, fighting to block the voices. "No, you will not take him." The fridge slammed shut violently, and in the next instant, the shadow recoiled as if stung. But I knew that was temporary. The blue light flickered and pulsed, growing brighter. Then I noticed something terrifying. The shadow was splitting, forming smaller, independent shapes, each moving in its own direction. Surrounding us, Ethan buried his face in my chest, sobbing. "Mom, I'm scared. It's everywhere." I felt a surge of anger and determination. "Listen to me, Ethan. I need you to be brave. Look at me. We can fight this together." His small eyes peeked up at me, filled with fear but also trust. I could feel the bond between us strengthening, something almost tangible in the face of the shadow. The shadows twisted violently, then recoiled toward the fridge, almost as if sensing our connection. The blue light pulsed one final blinding time, and everything went silent. The air was still, heavy with tension. I held Ethan tightly, trembling, trying to control my racing heart. And then I realized something even more frightening. The fridge was quiet, but the shadow wasn't gone. It had retreated, only to observe, plan, wait. I looked at my son, his face pale, his small hands gripping mine. "Mom, it's still there, watching us." I nodded. "I know, and it's learning. We can't let our fear control us. We have to be smarter than it, or it will take us both." And in that moment, I realized the truth. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just a fridge. It wasn't just a shadow. It was alive, intelligent, and patient. It could wait. It could plan. And it had chosen Ethan as its prey. I knew there was no turning back. The next encounter would not be confined to our kitchen, not to our home. It would test us, push us to the edge, and we had to survive. I still remember that night. The night I realized we were not just fighting a machine, a shadow, or a whisper. We were fighting something beyond explanation, something alive, intelligent, and dangerous, and it had chosen my son. The house was silent except for the soft hum of the fridge, faint but persistent. Ethan clung to me, trembling, his small hands digging into my arms. I had kept him awake all night, moving from room to room, trying to stay ahead of the fridge, trying to understand what it wanted, trying to protect him, and then I noticed something new. A faint glow beneath the fridge door. Not the blue light that had haunted us, but a soft, golden light. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat, almost inviting us closer. I swallowed hard. "Ethan, I think it's showing us something. We have to see." He looked at me, eyes wide and scared. Mom, what if it's a trap? I nodded. I know, but we can't run forever. We need to face it together. Slowly, we approached the kitchen. The air was cold, heavy, charged with tension. The fridge's hum grew louder, as if sensing our determination. I reached for the handle, heart pounding. Ethan clung to me tightly, whispering, I'm scared. I know, but I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you, I whispered back. I opened the fridge door, bracing for the worst. But what we saw inside wasn't darkness. It wasn't a shadow trying to pull us in. It was a small, glowing cube pulsating softly with golden light. Around it, the interior of the fridge had transformed, no longer cold and metallic, but warm, almost alive. With faint patterns swirling across the walls like flowing water, the whisper came one last time. Gentle, this time almost sad. I am not your enemy. I am a protector. I have been testing you, waiting for the one who could face fear and fight for the one they love. I froze. Protector, testing us. The cube pulsed again, and I felt a warmth spreading through the room, calming the shadows, dispersing the darkness. The tendrils that had haunted us for days vanished, retreating into the cube. And the blue light faded. Ethan looked at me, his small face glowing with wonder. Mom, it's not scary anymore. I held him close, tears streaming down my face. I know. I think it was trying to find us, trying to see if we were strong enough. The fridge's hum softened to a gentle, soothing sound. I could feel it. Alive, yes, but not malicious. It had tested our courage, our love, and our bond. And we had passed. I looked down at Ethan, who was smiling faintly now, his fear replaced by awe. Mom, it wanted to see if I was brave, right? I nodded, hugging him tightly. Yes, and you were. We both were. The cube's light dimmed, the patterns inside the fridge calming to stillness. I realized that the fridge had never been evil lit, had been a test, a mystery, a force that challenged us to rise above fear. And we had died as I closed the fridge door. The hum faded completely. The kitchen returned to normal, the cold and shadows gone. I held Ethan close, feeling the warmth and safety of our home once again. We had faced the impossible, stared into fear, and come out stronger. And I knew deep in my heart that nothing could ever take that bond from us. I looked down at Ethan, smiling through tears. We survived, together, and that's what matters. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes fear isn't the enemy. Sometimes it's the test that shows us how strong love can be.